are off for a weekend in San Diego County. We're going to Vallecito County Park, but it's supposed to be haunted. It's on the old Butterfield Stage route, and we are so excited to share it with you.
Here we go. We headed off towards San Diego and soon joined Route S2, which roughly follows the old Butterfield Stage route. The campground and park are situated on 71 acres within the boundaries of the Anza Borrego Desert State Park in the Colorado Desert.
We discovered this camp on an earlier driving tour along the S2 and decided to return when we could stay overnight and investigate the stories of supernatural activities.
The weather got ominous, and we spent the last few miles in heavy rain and lightning. We were glad to finally arrive at the camp.
First, let's share some history and backstory of the area to give you some understanding of the happenings at Vallecito. This land was originally home to the Kumeyaay people, and they called it Hawi. The Spanish military governor of Alta California was the first European to ride a horse on the trail through Hawi. For more than 150 years, others followed. Some just camped at Vallecito, military units and Mexican and American immigrants, homesteaders and ranchers.
The Cook Wagon Road was the only southern route into California during this time. The original Vallecito sod building was built in 1852. In 1854, James R. Lassiter established a store and a campground to serve the immigrants, and in 1858, it was made one of the stops of the famous Butterfield Overland Stage route. Vallecito soon became a place of prominence as hundreds of travelers utilized the stage stop. James Lassiter and his son were tragically murdered while prospecting for gold in Arizona.
Even though this was a welcome break from the horrific traveling conditions through the desert, Vallecito had a sinister side. There were murders, stage robberies, and gun battles, along with the routine hardships of regular desert daily life. This is where we begin our stories of the spirits who continue to visit the camps at Vallecito.
The Vallecito County Park Campground is alleged to be one of the most haunted campgrounds in all of California. The camp is spread out around the rebuilt Butterfield Stage Station, and there is even a cemetery on site. It is said that the camps 14 and 15, closest to the cemetery, are where people have reported the most supernatural sightings. The Lady in White is probably the best known and most regular supernatural visitor in the park. In the mid-1850s, during a late-night arrival, the stage stopped at Vallecito carrying a sickly young woman. The woman was traveling to meet her fiancé, who had headed out west some years earlier to strike it rich. He'd finally sent for her, and she was making the trip to meet up with her beloved for their wedding day.
She was already deathly sick upon her arrival, and her fellow travelers aided her from the stage and into Vallecito, where she could hopefully rest and recuperate enough to continue on to her happy ever after. Tragically, she died before the sun rose on the following day. The Lassiter family decided to bury her on site in the simple white wedding gown found in her meager belongings. This unnamed bride-to-be can often be seen on moonlit nights, aimlessly wandering the camp and anxiously searching for the next stage to transport her to her betrothed in the gold rush camps of Northern California.
Campers have reported hearing footsteps, a woman crying, and seen a ghostly apparition of a woman in a white dress. The activity seems to be more prominent during windy nights when the moon is mostly full. Be warned, campground legend says that she does not like large campfires, and many campers have given accounts of a feeling of being watched or even a hand on their shoulder around a large fire. So campers, keep those fires small. Other accounts of the bride state that she was traveling with 2 small children and they all died at Vallecito, but the account of her traveling alone is the most common.
If you don't receive a visit from the ghost bride, you could perhaps come across the lesser-seen lone horseman or the phantom stage. A payroll stage robbery occurred in the 1860s and bandits killed all the crew. After storing their loot, they are said to have made their way to the Vallecito Stage Station. They soon began drinking to excess and an argument broke out. One of the gangsters left, allegedly to check on his horse, but moments later he busted back through the door on his enormous white stallion, shooting and killing his fellow thieves. He turned to leave, presumably to take the loot for himself, and was shot in the back by a wounded bandit and killed. On stormy nights, a lone white horse has been seen around camp, and in 1934, volunteers working to restore the stage stop all swear to have seen the ghost of a white horse, although the two ghost stories seem to have been jumbled together.
The camp was deathly quiet during our stay, and we didn't see a single soul all the time we spent exploring, which left us feeling a little spooked. The stage building itself has a welcoming but eerie atmosphere, and you can almost feel the history oozing out of the walls and shuttered windows. The original building was left to decay in the early 1900s, and by 1929, only the outer walls remained. In 1934, the stage was restored by volunteers and the County of San Diego.
So obviously this is a reconstruction, and we know that, but I think it's still very, very cool to be able to see what it did look like. They have reconstructed it exactly as what it looked like.
3-foot thick walls and the foundation areas were still intact. They just had to rebuild most of the roof. You can see this is what it looked like here, and then it kind of fell apart.
But 1923, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
And so they put it back together, but the main walls were still here.
On our final morning, we were able to chat to the camp host, who captivated us with her own ghostly encounters. She told of a man standing in the doorway of the stage stop while she was cleaning and saying, "Hey there." When she turned and headed towards him, he disappeared, but there were no footprints and no sound. She told us of her many encounters with the White Lady, seeing her often around camp and the playground where swings could be seen moving rhythmically when there was no wind. We visited this playground and it's a little spooky. Her other unexplained happenings are things like the toilets being flushed clean after she'd placed coloured bleach in them and left to do other chores, the sound of footsteps behind her when she's alone at the camp. In fact, all her sightings and experiences have happened when absolutely no one else was at Vallecito.
We camped for 2 nights and had a peaceful, if somewhat spooky stay, and we were shocked to have seen no one but the camp host. This is a beautiful campground with sites big enough for most rigs. The campground has 44 sites, some of which are pull-through and others are back-in. They have tent-only sites, some of which are closest to the cemetery. There is also a fantastic horse camp with 5 separate sites and corrals and everything you need to stage your weekend of riding.
Vallecito is a primitive campground, so there's no electricity, there's no dump for the RVs, but there is fresh water available. Dogs are welcome, and we did keep our babies on the leash 99% of the time, but as we've said, there was nobody at this camp but us.
While we were disappointed not to have encountered the lady in white herself, we both experienced an unnerving feeling in the camp and all around the rebuilt stage itself.
Very often these county parks or state parks, they're very tight and it's really difficult to back your trailer in, and there are very few pull-throughs. I think this has 4 pull-throughs and there's nobody here. We're literally the only people here. It's been beautiful in the morning. When the sun goes down, it's beautiful.
If it's cold where you're at right now in the beginning of November, this is the best place to come. It's beautiful and warm.
This remote and hardly used camp is beautiful, and we thoroughly enjoyed our stay. If you're looking for a spooky adventure off the beaten track, you should not miss out on the Vallecito Stage Stop, the most haunted campground in Southern California.
Until next time, when we travel to Phoenix to attend the NASCAR Championship weekend, we'll see you on the trail.